Hello everyone, welcome back to the course on construction management and entrepreneurship for 5th semester VTU students. Today in this session we'll be looking into selective control in materials management. Selective control. The methodology of identifying and classifying material items in terms of their significance in the production process as most important, moderately important, and least important is termed as selective control. Based on selective control, the degree of monitoring and controlling of the material items will be exercised. The selective control reduces the overall inventory cost. The methods of selective control are ABC classification, XYZ classification, SOS classification, HML classification, VED classification, FSN classification, and GOLF classification. Now we will look into each one of these methods of classification in selective control in detail. ABC classification. ABC classification is based on the annual usage value or AUV of the material item. Generally, out of all material items used in production, some 10 to 15% of the items account for 65 to 70% of the total annual material cost. Another 20 to 25% of the material items account for 20 to 25% of the total annual material cost, and the rest 60 to 70% of the material items accounts to less than 10% of the total annual material cost. Based on this experience, less than 15% of the material item, which accounts for 60 to 70% of the total cost, can be subjected to strict control, and materials can be classified as A class materials. Another 20 to 25% of the material items can be subjected to medium control, and those materials can be classified as B class materials. The rest 70% of the material items can have routine control, and such material items can be classified as C class materials. The equation to calculate the annual usage value or AUV is equal to unit cost of that material multiplied by total number of units consumed annually. So this is a typical graph of ABC analysis or ABC classification. So on the y-axis we have the percentage of item consumed, and on the x-axis we have the material quantity. So about 10% of the material costs about 70% of the total cost is classified as A class material. About 35% of the material is going to cost about 90% of the total cost of the project, and the remaining materials will account for just about 10% of the total cost of the materials. The next classification is XYZ classification. XYZ classification is based on the annual inventory holding value of the material item, that is AIHV. Out of all material items used in production, some 10 to 15% of the material item account for 65 to 70% of the total annual inventory holding value and can be subjected to strict control. Thus, such materials can be classified under X class materials. Another 20 to 25% of the material items account for 20 to 25% of the total annual inventory holding value and be subjected to medium control. And such material items can be classified as Y class materials. The rest 60 to 70% of the material items accounts to less than 10% of the total annual inventory holding value and can have routine control, can be classified as Z class materials. The equation to calculate the annual inventory holding value or AIHV is equal to the unit cost of the material plus ordering cost per unit into number of orders plus the carrying cost per order. SOS classification. This classification is based on the seasonality of the material item. S stands for seasonal, OS stands for off-seasonal material items. SOS analysis helps in identifying items that are available only during a limited period of the year. Identifying the items that are seasonal but are available throughout the year, however, their cost is the off-season, are usually higher. It helps in selecting right season for procurement. Example, Mango Juice Company. HML classification. HML classification is based on unit value of material items. H stands for high unit value items, M stands for medium unit value items, and L stands for low unit value items. This classification is extremely useful to the purchase officers as it enables them to control purchase prices effectively. The limits are fixed by the organization to suit their purpose. The next classification is VED classification. VED classification is based on the criticality of the material item. V stands for vital items, E stands for essential items, and D stands for desirable items. The vital items are those which can cause stoppage of work. The essential items are those whose non-availability may not affect the work adversely. And desired items are those whose non-availability do not affect the work at all. They are required for the better completion of work. The next classification is FSN classification. FSN classification is based on consumption pattern and movement of materials. F stands for fast moving item, S stands for slow moving items, and N stands for non-moving items. And material item which is fast moving now may be categorized as slow moving or even non-moving sometimes later. The classification should therefore be updated as often as changes in technology occurs. GOLF classification. GOLF classification is based on the nature of suppliers, which it in turn determine lead time, quality of materials, continuity of supply, quantum of clerical work, etc. In GOLF classification, G stands for material item available from government, O stands for material item available from open market, L stands for material items which are locally available and are of small value, F stands for foreign items and have to be imported. The quality of the items available from government are usually good, but lead time is longer, the clerical work involved is more, and no credits available. The quality and lead time of items available from open market depends on care with which organization has registered their suppliers. The lead time for local items is usually short and the clerical work involved is low. The foreign material items involve a lot of clerical work, obtaining import license, arranging shipping, port clearance, custom formalities, etc. And also the lead time is very long. That's it for today's session. Thank you very much.